I don't know if today was the day for me to do this interview because today I really want to just say fuck everybody. But maybe it is important for me to do the interview today for this very reason because I'm sitting in these feelings.
Hi, my name is Jennice Fuentes, and welcome to Lean Into Your Power, an unfiltered conversation series about home, voice, and impact. And whoever that actor, comedian, producer, writer, woman of so many talents, Aida Rodriguez. And in this particular first episode ever, Aida was having a very hard day, and she shared that with us. And that's why we thought it was really more important than ever to speak. Because when it's hard to show up, is when showing up matters the most. Please enjoy the conversation. I met a lot of people. The resiliency of our community has been more clear than ever in the 9 years I've been running Boricua ActivatEd. And rarely have I seen somebody with the grit, grace, and focus in how to talk to people who are not ready to hear what she has to say. Help me welcome comedian and a woman of many talents, Aida Rodriguez. Para que tú lo sepas. Welcome, mija.
Thank you. Congratulations on having a conversation series because most people are just talking and not having conversations. So this is exciting.
Thank you, thank you. And hey, if I'm having Say What You Mean founder, if I'm having the comedian who pairs beauty with struggle and doesn't let anybody forget that those go together hand in hand.
Thank you.
How is it going in this political
Climate
landscape?
You know, it's it's a very complicated time because in the world of comedy, there's an active war happening. I don't know if it's a war, but conflict with the comedians who have become so political in a climate who never were political before, and all of a sudden became political because it's profitable and
Or because they're unemployed?
well, unemployed, but they just get more money. There, comedians can always be employed, but there's just a bigger audience of people who tend to support um, from a certain political group, and I just think that we're feeling all of the stresses. So we're very divided, and um, for somebody like me, I go do something else instead of just staying in in the trenches with it because I have no interest in entertaining anything that is rooted in and anything that's rooted in my dehumanization. So if it's I just stay away from it.
Is the division because of fear? What do you think is causing that? Because I usually, I'm not a comedian, although I like to think I'm funny, but I see comedians as fearless to be able to do the job. I mean, because you got to. Some things will land, others won't. You're out there exposed. What is causing the friction, you think?
I think the problem that we're dealing with in America is that they have really they're gunning for our education. So the average American is now making decisions between having an education or going to into the workforce so that they can eat. And you know, when you talk about people who are in a whole other world, another realm, who have no concept of what that feels like, we are constantly hearing people telling those people what they should be thinking. And a lot of them don't have the privilege of going to go do extensive research to, you know, they're being fed information through algorithms and reality shows because we're not watching news anymore. We're watching, you know, unscripted television. These are owned by cable companies. It's not news like it used to be. It's not about slant before the news. Well, the news is supposed to be objective. It's supposed to just give you information. It shouldn't be slanted towards a political party. But people are just really struggling right now with the information that they're getting, and at the same time trying to figure out how they're going to buy eggs, which was a very big conversation in the last 12 months. It's just it's really frustrating, and if you hear the discomfort in my talking, it's because, and I've never had any difficulties talking. I just don't know what to say at this point because I feel like we've reached as it the point of the movie Idiocracy. I think that's where we are. And it's hard to argue with people that don't know what they're talking about and that have no information.
They're
And
so confident that they're saying the truth.
absolutely. And it's not the truth, it's your truth
Right.
because the truth is the truth. You know, stats and information that is accurate doesn't have a slant. And I don't think people really understand that anymore.
Now, it's the power of education and the power of using your cognitive powers to distinguish what is actually just false and besides divisive, right? But I want to really back in and talk about diaspora and identity because I know you, Aida Rodriguez, and the role that your village played in your bringing your Dominican family, your Puerto Rican family, your grandma, and I know that you have famously said that Puerto Rican women is basically a black woman speaking Spanish.
A lot of them are, yeah.
Yeah, so I want your take on how that village made you the strong, beautiful woman you are today. And we both live here in the States. How do we replicate, you're the mother of two, how do we replicate and find that village here in the diaspora?
I mean, we have to create it. We have to create community. That's what people are thirsting for. When you see, you know, they keep saying there's a loneliness epidemic and that young men are gravitating to certain groups and these people are it's because people are just really thirsty for community. There's a lot of breakups in families through political parties, so people are not speaking
Yes.
to each other, so they're finding their villages. You got to create community, and we have to focus on that. We've become hyper focused on superficiality and materialism, social media, our appearances to other people we don't know, who don't know us, and we really care about what they think about us. We live in comment sections, and we're not, you know, reading books or hanging out with our grandparents, or you know, we'll post them when they die, but we don't hang out with them while they're alive. And we've just become a product of what media said we would become, and we are here now. It's really disheartening.
Well, we should hopefully find some uplift in this because I feel your disheartened and I feel like sometimes you wonder why are we doing everything we're doing?
Yeah, every day.
Why is this just a hopeless effort? Should I just like hang up and go retire in Uruguay as far as
Yeah,
possible from the mayhem, right? And yet, we've been here before. History keeps repeating itself, right?
absolutely. You know, I don't know if today was the day for me to do this interview, because today I really want to just say fuck everybody. But maybe it is important for me to do the interview today for this very reason, because I'm sitting in these feelings. And I think it's important for us to have these conversations.
Tell me about the projects before we go on digging on civic engagement and what we should all be the collective call of action. Tell me about the projects that you're working on and what you'll be looking out for.
Well, the movie that I just did, Hurricane Seasons, that I shot in Puerto Rico, I'm very excited about. Some really great actors in it. I worked with Carlos Ponce, who's a Puerto Rican
Yeah, the movie
treasure.
that just came out
He
recently.
did. He was
Yeah,
talking about it, and now he's in this one. And I worked with Justina Machado
we
and
love
Elvis
her.
Nolasco, Alicia Pascual Peña, who's a beautiful young actress that was on the show Bel Air, and she was in the new Saved by the Bell. And she's really, really very exciting to work with in this movie. But Priscilla Lopez is in the movie from the chorus line, and it was really fun working with some, especially like Modesto in Puerto Rico, some actors that are in Puerto Rico. It was fun working with them. I'm working on a new book.
Yes, tell me about the book.
I can't talk about the book yet,
Not yet.
but as it's coming out, when we finish our paperwork, we'll talk about it. But I am working on book number two, and
Congratulations.
thank you. I'm working on some movies, and I am developing a TV show. So
Girl,
not all bad.
you're
And I'm working on
busy.
my new hour, which I'm really excited about.
So, because I know you have Fighting Words.
Yeah,
That was in 2022,
21.
2021. I still remember my pride. Very similar when Bad Bunny won the Grammys and I jumped like a lizard up on stage in the place I was watching. I remember the moment when I saw the billboard of your show on Sunset. I'm like, I took a picture like, that's my girl.
Yeah.
There's some markers out there that must bring you joy.
Yes.
Seeing that thing, when you saw it, when you saw that billboard, you're like, hey.
Oh, I was
Hey.
happy. I moved here to be an actress, and I always wanted a billboard on Sunset, and I ended up with five, and
Yes.
that was a big deal for me because I didn't pay for them. Some people pay for their own billboards. You know, doing Netflix and HBO was it's such a weight to carry because you're an artist and you're stand-up comedian as a woman being in the places where it's dominated by men and they don't expect us to be there or do well, and they both did really well. But also because I am, doing something that a lot of women haven't been able to do. So it always feels good to be acknowledged and celebrated. And, as a result of that, I ended up directing Ralph Barbosa. I directed Ian Lara and Marcela Arguello for HBO. So creating opportunities for other
Right.
people, which is really important to me. And so, yeah,
Do you still get nervous
absolutely.
when you go on stage? How do
Yeah.
you control the nerves? How do you control the, oh my God, here we go again?
Well, I asked Chris Rock one time if he was nervous because he was going on stage, and he said yes. And he said, whenever you stop getting nervous, quit.
Ah,
So that's one of the goats of comedy. So I have my own little ritual.
tell me about it.
Nope.
Oh, because well, that could be a way to share. There's this actress I can't do Jessica Tandy.
Uh-huh.
Jessica Tandy, who is now passed and is not our generation. She said every time she's like the Meryl Streep of her time, right? She said every time before I go, I'm so nervous that I curl my toes inside my shoes so nobody can see me deal with the stress. I never forgot that.
Oh no, you can see me like I jump up and down. I
Or you do
do. I
physicality to
have
get
to
rid of
work
the
on my
stress.
energy. Yeah, because I have anxiety, so I have to work through some of that before I go on stage. I STEM because I'm neurodivergent, so um, yeah, I have I have to be by myself for a little bit before I go on stage because what happens is when you're in a comedy show, people don't realize that what you're doing is an art form. They just think you're talking.
And they're talking to each other and
And then
like
they start
making
talking to
noise.
you, and people want to
That's
have conversations with you. They ask you questions, and you're trying to get your set together in your head. It's like it's a lot of work, but
Ida. After 2 decades, it's being a female comedian, and I want to say a successful female comedian, everything you thought it would be back when you were dreaming of doing this.
no, it's not everything that I thought it would be.
Better or worse?
Um, I don't know. I don't. It just comedy makes you feel like you've never arrived.
Hmm.
I remember Louis C.K. told me that I wouldn't. He was like, "You're not a real comedian until you've been doing stand up for 15 years."
Oh Lord.
And I think he's one of the, regardless of how you feel about Louis C.K. and his indiscretions,
Mm-hmm.
is in terms of him as a comedian, he's like I think one of the brilliant comedic minds. How he knows how to really write a joke, and he's a really good comic. But he said, not until 15 years. He was like, you don't really know who you are. You don't have a voice. And
And is
that's
it
just
worse if you start early, like
by
when you don't know
example.
who you are, when you're 15, when you're 20? I was not this woman when I was 20 or 25.
Well, Dave Chappelle started when he was, I think, 14. Um, and a lot of them started young, but I guarantee you that Dave ain't who he was when he was 14 and who he is now. I just think that you just continue to evolve. I mean, George Carlin did stand up well into his older years, and he got better and better every time you saw him because he stopped the process of the idea of trying to impress people or get people to on board just goes away, and then you just start really expressing your voice and your point of view, and it becomes something very
Would
special.
you do it all over again if you could go back 40 years and start again?
Yeah,
Not that you've been working for 40 years, but as a child, when you were a child, you had this vision. Because we all know when we want, if you are an actor or comedian, entertainer, creative of any type, you know that since you're very young. You know you want to do
absolutely.
that.
Yeah,
And based on what you know now as a successful comedian, as somebody who makes a living
yeah.
out of this, and somebody who has traveled so far, because
Mm-hmm.
we all know your personal story and you battle with even homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
And people sometimes give up when everything looks so dark. And you have arrived, Ida, because you have.
Thank you. Appreciate
You
that.
have arrived.
I would do it again.
And I say that you do it again.
All over again. I would. Yeah. I learned so much in stand up. I've been around comedic giants. I've gotten to see Bill Burr work out a set, who's my favorite comedian, who's living. I've worked with Paul Mooney, opened for Paul Mooney. I've been able to, you know, break records with numbers on Netflix. I've had I've traveled the world doing stand up. I've entertained troops at the DMZ line in Korea that were getting ready to be
Girl,
deployed into active combat.
exciting.
Those are things that mean something to me. That I could have been the last comedian that some soldiers saw in their life because they went on into combat and didn't come back. So I've gotten to do things that not very many people can say they've done. So I'm very thankful for that.
And I am thankful too. Ida, they say comedy is tragedy plus distance. I want to ask you, when you were thinking of comedy and maybe not putting it together, that we all try to make fun of the tragedy in our lives because you can go either way. Which comedian were you watching saying that resonates and that's my pain too, and I want to do the same thing? Who inspired you?
Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love George Carlin. George Carlin's mind and Richard Pryor's heart, but Richard Pryor's mind too, because Richard Pryor was so brilliant. But that was my comedic hero, my comedy.
Did you ever get to work with him?
No,
No.
I didn't.
He was plagued with addictions, and his brilliance was also balanced with a lot of darkness. How do you do that? Because we all have darkness, and we all have like tragedy, and like today you're not having a great day because you're like you feel down. How do you balance that if you're going on stage, or you're going into a podcast, or you're going into a conversation?
I take it with me. I've learned to process and to share, and I think that's why people gravitate towards me, is because they know that they're having an authentic experience with me. I take it with me. I don't try to. People know when you're not being authentic. They can always feel it. So I use it. So if I go on stage tonight, I'll talk about feeling shitty and I'll find my jokes in there.
Good.
I've always been able to do that. And I remember Daniel Tosh used to do that. I used to watch him. And just watching comedians that are able to take it with them and just do it. Yeah, just I'm a whole human being and I have all the feelings and they are all part of who I am.
You know, civic engagement and social media. We talked about the negative impact that social media does, especially for our young people, but even us adults, and how it impacts us negatively. And yet, it's also a way to spread the word, especially whether you know you're on the right or the wrong side. And I find that with civic engagement, which is so misunderstood, you know, I walk into a classroom and people don't know the member of Congress, but they know who Bad Bunny is.
Right.
People can't even name their governor or senator, and there's something that keeps them up at night, but they don't know what to do about it. Your comedy is very political.
Sometimes, yeah.
It can be. And you're always funny. When you go into the politics in your comedy, how do you think that could inspire, how could you help any one community find or drive to be more engaged civically? Because you know what? If we don't hold our elected officials accountable, how are we going to fix the situation?
You know, I think that there's so much misinformation. I mean, people now don't believe voting even matters. You know, they're told it doesn't make a
Do you
difference.
think we're going to
anyway.
have an election come November?
I don't know. I hope so. I think that these so-called patriots who really call themselves patriots and say they believe in the American way are going to fight for it, because the people that are in a cult are not. And that is just science. Like, if you study science and you sociology and you understand what cult behavior is like, there's nothing you can tell people who are in a cult. And it doesn't matter if it's the MAGA cult or the religious or a religious cult or whatever it is. You can't tell those people that they are far gone, and the way to help them is through, they have to have psychological help. Like, it's not, and this is not me trying to diss anybody, but the reality, if you believe everything that one person says, you have lost your ability to process. If you're willing to ignore whatever somebody says for the sake of a feeling of belonging, that is an issue. And so I think for us, it's through education. People who call themselves patriots don't even know what the preamble is. They talk about the Constitution. They probably have never read the entire Constitution. When they vote down the line for a political party and are unaware of what issues they're voting for, sometimes to their own detriment. And I think people have been taught now this Red Sox Yankees thing that's happening with the Democrats and the Republicans is very dangerous for us because people are unaware of what's happening in their own community. They don't realize that their dollars and your dollar is their most important vote. Because if you knew how to divest that dollar from the people who are oppressing you, you would have a voice. But the problem is that that people have been indoctrinated into this consumerism that is addictive, and it's really, really hard. But I think education is always the way. In fact, FDR said that the greatest threat to our democracy is always going to be a lack of education. And so that is what we're seeing happening right now, is that people are uneducated. They're arguing against Obamacare but want the Affordable Care Act, and they don't know it's the same thing. And they are on television saying this because they don't know. And people would much rather laugh at them than to pull them aside and try to educate them. And that's where we are now. And
ignorance is very dangerous. And as we say when we teach, how we go in the community, if you're not at the table, you're going to remain on the menu.
Yep, and that's what's happening.
It's what's happening. But I want to end up in an uplifting note that we're not going to be on the menu. No. We have to stay at the table, Aida.
But I just think it's important for those people who are on a human level that care about humans to find each other. Find your tribe, and your tribe will not always look like you. But the people who think like you and move like you and are going in the same direction, that's what's important right now. Because at the end of the day, none of this other stuff will matter. None of it will matter. What will matter is who's standing next to you while you charge forward to fight for what's right. And that's what I want to continue to impart on people. It's like, find your tribe, because there are people out there who still want good things to happen, and I want to be around those people.